Okay, here we go. What I'm going to do this morning, this is Rodney, by the way, and what I'm going to do this morning is show you how I do the dime worksheet for every client. Don't try to prejudge what a client needs to have a review done, because one of the big reasons you want to use this review sheet is if you're talking to someone and they don't need anything, you're showing them what you're going to do for any referrals that they might give you. They know you're going to go do this dime worksheet for their family and friends, because if you go and just sell somebody something, then you say, well, you have anybody else I can go see? Well, you might get referrals that way, but they know what you're going to do. You're going to sell a policy to someone they know. But if you sell this review right, in other words, just tell them, we're going to do this dime worksheet with you, review your whole insurance plan, and you'll find out something that you didn't know about your insurance plan in most cases, so you can act on it if need be. Otherwise, if you're good, you know, I'm going to pat you on the back and go on, but let me go do this for any friends and family members that you might know. That way, whenever they do give you a referral, they know you're going to do this review. And I even say, I promise I'm not going to ask you to buy a thing, because once we get done with this worksheet and they have a need, I just say, well, what are you going to do about the need that you said you have? Now, I'm not telling them they have the need. They're telling me based on the answers to the questions. They tell me what they want to happen in case of a death, a disability, retirement planning. And that retirement planning part is not really on here, even though it's in the section on 401ks here. You know, you're asking about that, all these three. But so that wouldn't be something that's necessarily on there. But if they don't have anything, you can say something like, well, what are you going to do about retirement planning? And then that might be a index universal life sale. So anyway, you go in, you talk to the people, you know, do your little conversation about the grandchildren, about sports, the local sports team, or whatever you see in their house that you know they're interested in, from pictures on the wall to Clemson sticker on the car, whatever. And you're talking to them, and then the pause in the conversation comes, and you say, okay, and this is the way you do it. I'm starting a review now. What we're going to talk about today is, I just want to do this review with you real quick, and what we're going to talk about today is death and debt. That means funeral cost for death and any debt that you may have other than your mortgage, income replacement. And what this means is, does anybody depend on your income, or do you depend on anybody else's income to pay your bills? Mortgage, and I always think, point at these things too while you're talking to them. Mortgage, you don't necessarily have to circle. I'm doing this just to let you know where I am. But mortgage, that's to pay off your house. Education would be for your children or grandchildren, or if you just want to leave someone some money when you pass on. Okay, but first let me get some information from you. And pause for a second. This is where I always do this right here first. This first page, you do this, what I just did. You don't fill it out first. You just talk about what you're going to talk about. Then you go to the next page and say, well, let me get some information from you first. And then you go and, of course, you ask client name. And if they're married, you ask spouse name, address, city, state, zip, phone number. But this is big here too, because we have that email campaign system that's on taagent.info. It sits right there looking at you. It says TAN campaign program, email campaign program. And you can go in and sign up for that. And I'm not signed up for it because I have a securities license and I have to get everything approved. So I can't get it approved right now for me. But every other agent out there should be getting emails from people and putting them in there. And then that way they get an email from you. And I'm not sure how often you cut it on, 1 week, every 1 week, 2 weeks, whatever. But they get an email from you about things that might be of interest to them. Transamerica sets it up. You don't have to write the content. Transamerica has the content, but it keeps your name in front of the people all the time. So that way, whenever they get an email and they're talking to their friends or whatever, somebody says something about insurance, they say, well, I just got an email from my agent yesterday. Why don't you call him or her? And it works. I've done it for years in my practice before I came to Transamerica, and it does help to always keep your name in front of people. So, and I've had plenty of people call me and say, I just retired, I want you to come talk to me about my investments. But anyhow, do that. This is a big deal. Let's get into this right here. Always ask the email. Most people, even in their 60s now, have email. But anyway, all right, so you go on, phone number. You want to know the date of birth of the client and the spouse, of course. Don't do this. This is crazy. Nobody will give you a Social Security number. I don't even know why that's on there. They're not going to ask you. You don't ask somebody in the first review for a Social Security number, and that goes without saying. But ask about the client employer, where they work. You don't really need the phone number, but you do need to know about the annual income. And sometimes people balk at and say, well, just want to know where we are so we can kind of figure out what your needs are going to be based on these other questions I ask you. And here's another thing. Always put yourself forward as a professional. You're not out there selling mattresses and vacuum cleaners. You're out there trying to take care of a family. So be a professional. Expect them to answer the questions. They give this information to a clerk at the bank that's getting paid $7, $8, $10 an hour with no licensing like you have. Why wouldn't they tell you? You have a license to be a professional insurance agent. Expect them to answer the questions. And tell them when they balk at you, that's what you do. You're a professional insurance agent, and when you tell me this, I have to keep all your information confidential, or I could lose my license. So everything I'm doing is just like when you go to the doctor or to an attorney, and they have to know what your situation is in order to help you. That's the only reason why I'm asking these questions. And stand your ground. Now, don't fight somebody. It's like, I ain't telling you anything, you don't need to know. Well, it may not even be a person that you want to become a client. So do the best you can. You can always ask them, well, do you want me to help you at all about anything? If they say no, then go on. There's plenty of other people out there that do need your help. Okay? So you get the spouse's employer, annual income for him or her, children's names. And I always ask this, and sometimes people, will say, well, why you need to know my children's name? And I say, well, I'm going to tell you later on why I need to know. And of course, this is a good referral as well. So you just ask the name of the child, and you say the age of the child. And if it's of age, you can say married, children. Does it have children? I can't write. Married with children, and where does he live? And where does he work? Where work? Okay. So if you get to, of course, if they're married, that's a referral. You can go do the review on them. If they live close enough, you can go do them. If they work, then they probably have some money that, of course, they got income, so that income needs to be insured. But they also let you know if they can even afford to buy anything from you. And if they don't work, you can always bring up, well, what would happen if they were to pass away? Who would take care of their funeral? And then sometimes the parent says, well, I guess I would. Well, you can say, well, if I could find them, I could help you get some insurance on them, fairly cheaply. We could get a 30-year term policy or something on them really cheaply, and that would last your life expectancy to take care of them, and it'd be cheap. Can I find them and get it done? Would that be something you're interested in? So you could just say that, and I've done that before. Go out and find them. Say your mama wants some insurance on it in case something happens. Get them to sign and let the mama be the payer. But anyway, so go through that. You're getting this information for another section, but also for referrals coming up. Okay, then you go down, and once you get through this, you stop right here, and you go back to the first page. Then you say, okay, let's go back over here and see what your needs are. Okay, so for death, right now, funerals, $11,000, $12,000. Don't you agree? Ask them that. Don't you agree? And they'll usually say, yeah. Do you know anybody that just had a funeral? Do you remember what it cost? And they'll say yes or no, whatever, and then talk to about it. It's going to be around $10,000 to $12,000. Well, if they're under 60, there's charts out there that say by the time they get to their, a 30-year-old gets to life expectancy, it'll be $50,000. Now, I don't believe it'll ever be that much. I just think the market will correct somehow and get people either start being cremated to keep it cheaper or whatever. But I do think that if you're under 60, you might ought to go with 20,000 or 25, because sometimes you can get it cheaper for 25. All right, and if they're over 60, I would go, 60 to 70. You could say 20, 70 or greater than 70. I'd say 15. And all this is not exact, but kind of get their agreement on it. Don't you agree? In other words, that's 65. Well, don't you agree there's a good chance it might be as much as 20,000 by the time you get to life expectancy of 80? And they'll say, well, yeah, or they might say no, and then you say, well, 15 for sure, right? And they say, yeah. Most likely they're going to say that if it's already 12. Anyhow, all right, so once you've done that, you say, okay, what about your debt? What do you owe if you had to write? And a lot of times people don't want to tell you about their credit card. So what you do is you say, if you had to write me a check to pay off everything you owe other than your mortgage, what would you have to write the check for? I mean, that's car, credit cards, student loans, whatever. And let them tell you. And they might say 15,000. Say, well, is any of that money that something's going to be paid off in a year or two? Well, yeah, the car's, I'm probably going to have the car paid off in about 2-3 years. And you could write that down. Okay, how much do you owe on the car? It's 5,000 more. So you could say, well, 5,000 will be paid off in 3 years. And what that's doing is just letting them know that you are being reasonable about it. There's no need to buy a life insurance policy to cover a loan for a lifetime if it's going to be paid off in 3 years. But still, it doesn't hurt if they bought $15,000 more. Whoever they leave it to is not going to be upset about it. So, and I say that often, nobody's going to be mad because you left more money than was needed. So, but you still try to be logical, just like you're talking to a family member. That's the way you want to treat this. It's not about selling something, it's about finding out what they need. And another thing about this worksheet too is, don't get in the habit of filling it out just to fill it out. Get in the habit of using this when you're filling it out to find out. Don't fill out, find out what the needs are. Ask the questions and think about it logically. All right, so we got 15,000 and let's say they're under 60, 25,000. But really, we've got 35,000 if you look at if 5,000 is going to be paid off in 3 years. Now, they could die within the 3 years. So let's go ahead and go with 15 and 25 there. So right now, and I scribble all over, but right now we got 40,000, right? And right here, income replacement. There's lots of ways to do this. They say 10 years of income for the main breadwinner. I just like to say, how much are your bills per month? Okay, and they might say about $2,000. What's your budget? What you got to have to pay your bills each month? And they'll probably say $1,500, $2,000, $3,000, whatever it is. And you say, okay, so $2,000. Let's just add about 10% to that. That way, any unexpected things like cars breaking down, appliances, household appliances breaking down, you got to buy them, new heating and air unit, roof on the house, whatever. So let's just say they said 2,000, then I'd put down 2,200 a month. Do you agree with that? That's what I'd ask them. Do you agree with that? They'll say, yeah, that's probably right. So 2,200. What about your mortgage? You owe anything on that? Yeah, I'm paying $700 a month on the mortgage. And then I say, well, is that part of the monthly income? And a lot of times they'll say, yeah, that's part of it. So I'll just put it right here. It's include. All right. That way we know that they really only have about $1,500 to pay off. And then I say, how long you got before you pay off the house? And they'll say, I think I got about 10 years. So we're looking at about 8,000. So they owe about 80,000, right? 10 years times 700 is close to that. And none of this stuff has to be exact math. And you can show it to them. Well, 700 times 12, 82 times 10 years, pay it off, it'd be 82,000. And look at them, say, that's right, about 82,000 payoff. And they say, yeah, that's probably right. Some of us escrow, whatever. But we're just trying to get close. All right, so we got 82,000 to pay off the house. And if we take this out of here, then we really only have $1,500 a month. Okay, that we got to cover. and you say, well, if I paid off the house for your wife and she needed $1,500 to pay the bills, that sound about right? And they'll say, yeah, okay, well, how long, what's your youngest child? Now let's just say there's different scenarios. If the wife works and she can afford to pay $1,500, it's not as big a deal. You can go all kind of routes. You can just pay off the house and get a $100,000 term to pay off the house. But we haven't got the education yet. But if the wife doesn't work, then we've got a bigger problem, because then she can't get his Social Security, or he can't get hers, if I'm going to be politically correct, whichever one's the main breadwinner. You never know anymore. But anyway, if she can't get, if they don't have any kids, and let's just say she doesn't work, or to have kids and she doesn't work, then we got to make sure we take her to age 60 before she can get his Social Security. That's just the way it works. So she would have to be able to make the bills or go get a job. So what you want to do is be able to pay the bills for however long. Now, if she's 40 years old and the kids are up in their teens, she still needs it for 20 years, because she's 40. Got to get her to 60 before she gets on his Social Security. So we need at least 20 years of protection. Let's say she's 30, got a couple kids, one of them's a year old. Well, we really still need about 25 years if you got a year-old kid, because it won't be out of college or, out of the house before 22 to 25 anyway. So we still got 25 years or so that we need to take care of those kids. So that's what we need to do. So 15 times 20, $1,500 a month times 12 is 18,000 times, let's just say 20 years. And I don't know what that is. 10 would be $360,000, okay? And you look at them and say, you agree with that? And they're like, I don't know. Well, this is what you're saying, and here's the math. This is what you need, right? Now you can go to Transware, and I'm going to write this on here. You can go to Transware and use the income protection option, the IPO. It's income protection option. And it'll tell them exactly what they need. And it'll be less than $360. But if you punch it in front of them, a lot of times that makes sense to them. You punch in $1,500 a month for 20 years and $82,000 lump sum, or you might well go ahead and say $100,000, because you got to pay for a funeral, right? So let's just say $100,000. You would put in $100,000 lump sum in the calculator for the quote lump, and then $1,500 a month for 20 years. And the calculation will show needed insurance. Right? All right. Well, if you do that, there ain't no way that they can say they don't need it. They just told you what they needed. All right? That's what they need. All right, so when you get done, and let's just say it comes out to the 360 and 100, 460, but they're gonna have some interest in that. Let's just say it says 400,000 is what they're gonna need. Now that's on this part. We ain't got to the education yet, but so far it looks like we're gonna probably need around 400,000. All right, so let's go to education. If they got 2 kids, ask them, how much do you want to provide? Now, if you were to go to 2-year college, you probably get by with $30,000. And then we got internet colleges coming up in the future. Might be a lot cheaper. I don't know. But if you want them to go to a 4-year school, you're looking at least $100,000 for 4 years. So ask them, do you want $25,000 per child, or you want $100,000 per child? If they want to go on to med school, do you want $250,000 per child? I think things would be cheaper. And I'm just honest with them. I'm not trying to sell them more insurance. What I'm trying to do is get an agreement on what is the appropriate amount to cover their needs, and get an agreement with them. And I give them my input and let them give me theirs, and we work it out. So if we worked out with this one, they said they got 2 kids, and they said, well, 100,000 each would be good for both our kids. So we'll go with 200,000. So you add this and this, and we got a $600,000 need. If you notice, I don't always go along with all this right here. All I'm doing is writing it down based on how it makes sense to me. And I would suggest you do it exactly like I'm doing it now, because until you can figure out a better way for you, because this way you know what to do. This all, to me, makes complete sense. We talked about death, which is 15. If they're under age 60, then we went with 25,000. And debt, pay off 15,000. So we got 40. All right, so I didn't even add that into this. But then we got income, 1,500, 18,000 times 20 years, 360. Pay off the house with 100,000 lump sum, and then we got if we add that 40 to it, we got about $640,000. Now on the wife's side, if she was a stay-at-home mom, and we needed to look at hers, we would always, and a lot of times I'll put over here I'll put a little column, him and her. And if I had done that, I wouldn't have written all this stuff all over here on the side. I'd kind of kept it in this column here. But anyway, you can put him and her. And then, and I know this is a lot of scratching, but it just still makes more sense to me to do it this way. It's not as neat. Some of you girls out there might want to do it neatly. And there are better ways to do it neatly. But anyway, so you get to the wife. We're using the man as the one that's making the most money. And the wife's at home raising the 2 kids. Still, she needs enough to pay off this house, because he's going to have to pay a babysitter, somebody to help take care of those kids. And it'd be nice if he could go ahead and get some of this education taken care of and set back, because just be more beneficial. And usually a $250,000 policy, if they come out with this new preferred underwriting that we can get without a medical, then you could give the wife, if she's young, $250, and it still wouldn't be but about, around $20 a month or so. So why wouldn't you do that? So that's what I would handle with a younger wife. If it's an older one, we just have to figure out, just use logic. What would the amount be that would help him make it if she was gone? Because he's got to start hiring somebody to help take care of the kids, so he won't have as easy a time without her there. The woman's worth money too now. The stay-at-home mom's worth a lot of money. So anyway, that's where I would look at that. I'd say, okay, well, so we got $640,000 when we put this in there. So, and you just get them, and then we're going to put $250,000 on the wife, and get an agreement with them. Pen won't write. Okay, and they say, yeah, I see what you're saying. So you got both those, but then you say this. You're saying we got 600. You need 640, and you're saying, not you telling them. This is what they're telling you they need for all this to happen, and you say it this way. Well, based on what you told me here, you need $640,000 to pay off the house, kids' college, and $1,500 a month, and your funeral costs and any other debts you have other than your house. You need $640 to take care of your wife, and then you, because you're younger, can get $250,000 for not much premium, and that'll help take care of the kids' college, pay off the house, and take some pressure off of him since you're gone, because you're a really important part of the team. But let's make sure. Now here's what you say right now. You say, let's see if you have enough. You may not need any insurance at all. You may have enough. So let's go over here. Now if you got a bunch of money, I say it this way. If you got a bunch of money, you may not need any life insurance at all. So do you have a bunch of money in the bank? Let them answer. What about your savings account, money markets, or CDs, and checking? They don't have that on there, but you need to ask. How much you have in savings account at the bank? Let them answer. How much you have in money market? Let them answer. How much you have in CDs? Let them answer. How much you have in checking? Let them answer. And if they say, well, I don't know, and I ain't sure, I said, well, is it less than 5,000? And they'll say, yeah. Well, then I just put a little less than 5,000. If they say, no, I got more than that, so was it less than 50? Yes, less than 50, and I put less than 50. Is it more than 25? Because if it's more than 25, there may be some better places for them to stick their money, because 25 is a pretty good emergency fund, and anybody's got 25,000 set back with no more income than they need per month, they could afford to invest maybe in an annuity or dump some of that money in an IUL, let it start growing. But those are things that are letting me know that by asking these questions. Then you ask them, do you have an annuity? Do you have any other investments outside the bank? In other words, mutual funds and stocks? Do you have a 401k at work? Answer that. Here's another big one. Do you have an old 401k from a previous job? That's an opportunity for you to go and move it to an annuity. Give them a good annuity with maybe an income rider if they're younger, that show them how much guaranteed income they'd have at retirement. And here's another one that's a big one. Inheritance. Do you expect an inheritance from a parent or any other family member? And let them answer. Because sometimes you run into people that expect to get $1 billion or so from their parents. Well, in that case, you got to take that into account. If the parents are older, and I ask them that, well, how old are your parents? That way we can come up with life expectancy. So if they're 80 years old, we know that most likely they're going to inherit this money within 10, 15 years. Then that affects how long we got to insure them for. And I say things like that. Well, you know you're getting this money. And they'll say, yeah, we know that. I said, well, on the retirement side, you may not need as much if you got $1 million coming, but we still need to take care of the insurance needs up until then, because you don't want to have to fall back on your parents because you could have done some simple planning of your own. All right, but anyway, so you talk to them just like you would your spouse or a family member or a friend sitting at the table, just trying to figure out the best solution for them. All right, then you say, okay, well, you don't have much money and all. Well, you got plenty of life insurance, I bet. And at this point, what they want to do is prove to you that they don't need as much life insurance as they agreed to you on the first page that they did need. In other words, they're telling you they need this, and they can't say they didn't because they answered the questions that way that they did. All right? Well, when you get over here, they want to prove to you here and here that they have enough to where they don't need to buy anymore. So they're more apt to tell you what these figures are in order to prove it. And you say it that way. Well, you may not need anything because you may have a bunch of money in the bank. So what you're doing is prompting them to prove to you that they don't need it, and that makes them talk about it. Because if you just ask people about their money, a lot of times they don't want to tell you. But if you can give them incentive to answer in order to prove that they don't need to buy insurance, then that'll work out better for them. They'll have more incentive to answer these questions here. Okay? Then you go to life insurance. Just ask them, the husband and the husband and the wife, well, what do you got? What's the death benefit? What's the price? What company? Is it a term? Is it a UL? Is it a variable UL? Is it a whole life? Let them answer. And if they can't, have them go find out. Go get the policy. Say, go get the policy. Let's get it done. They say, I don't know where they are. Say, well, I'll take some time to go find it, because let's get this done. Look, I know you'd rather be watching football, trimming the shrubs, cooking, but let's get this done. Somebody's going to have to do this when you pass away or you become disabled or anything happens. Let's do it now. Get it over with. Let them go get it. If they go get it, sometimes it's good to just get on the phone with the company and call them and say, what does it got? Does it have, is it a term policy? Because, you can look at it and tell, well, when the term happens to expire, what's it going to be? What's the price going to be? It expires if it's a whole life or a UL. Does it have a loan? Because if it has a loan, that has to be paid back or the policy could lapse. All those, what's the cash value? All those kind of things, and write them down. If you come down, they got 2 or 3 policies, of course you answer all those questions. If they say they got something at work, you put it here. Most of the time it'll be a term, but not always, and how much they got there. And that changes every year. It's an annual renewable term, just like we have with our open enrollment. And then you ask about the spouse too. Okay, so you do all those, then you know how close you're getting to this number. Okay? So you write it all down. Then you say, do you have health insurance? Let them answer. If they're not working and let's say they're retired, they may have a Medicare supplement. If they say, well, I'm on Medicare, and if they're on Medicare, then you just put down yes, and then you say, do you have a supplement or an advantage plan? And if they say, yeah, I have a supplement, find out what company, what's the price. You might be able to give them a better supplement with Transamerica supplement, or go through Crump for a different supplement. But if they say they're on, have an advantage plan, I would suggest that you tell Josh to go and see them. Advantage plan, in other words, if they say they have Humana or Care Improvement Plus, something like that, let Josh go and talk to them. And that way, Josh he's the expert in this, and he'll take care of you, make sure nobody comes in and steals your business, because these Advantage Plans agents come in there a lot of times and replace your business. So you want to get Josh in there, and he may give you some kind of little gift card or something for a referral. But anyway, ask that question. So these are important. You want to find out all about everything. So we got disability income. You say, if you became disabled, do you have insurance to take care of your loss of income? If they say, yeah, I got disability at work. And if they do, most disability policies at work are 60%. So you say, can you make it on 60% of your income? And if they say no, then we need to do something. Well, you know, the Trendset LB has disability rider. Okay? But also, if they have enough insurance, that's still a sale. You can go through Crump and get a straight disability policy. Okay? So you still got a chance to help them. Now remember, you're trying to make a living, and you want to make a sale, but at the same time, this is what they need. If you're giving people what they need, you're getting paid for it. Both of you are making out. That's just the way the whole system works, and it's beautiful. So always remember, try to help them. Then you go down to long-term care. If they say yes, now long-term care means, of course, if they go into a nursing home or they have to have someone come to the house and take care of them because they can't take care of themselves anymore. The 2 of 6 activities of daily living, they can't do them. Then they need long-term care. But if they don't, and let's just say they don't have any money, then the government will come in and through Medicaid, and once they spend up all their money, in other words, there's rules on it. I don't want to go into all of them now, but in South Carolina, I think it's $66,000 that the healthy spouse can keep, and in Georgia, I think it's $115 before they could qualify for assistance from the government. But once they qualify for the assistance from the government, they got to pay it back. All right. So in other words, once both spouses are dead, they'll come back to the estate and ask for the money back. The state will. So, but if you'll go to a lawyer, it still holds up, even though the law is different. And like I say, if they have a lot of assets and want to do something about it, I would always suggest to maybe Google it. I know one in South Carolina that does long-term care estate planning to protect against long-term care losses. But let's just say that they don't have that and they don't have much money. Then you would say, well, let's get a life estate deed, all right, from a lawyer. And then ask them, do they have will and trust and that kind of stuff. Make sure your will, or not your will and trust, but will, power of attorney, all that kind of stuff's taken care of. What you're doing is helping them now. You ain't getting anything for this, but you're giving them information. And if they want to make sure that this money goes in the most efficient way to those children that we talked about earlier, right? Okay, that was the thing. The children, this is where I ask about the children. Let's make sure they get that money in the most efficient, tax-efficient way, and it's not all lost. What they worked hard to accumulate over their life, let's don't lose it to long-term care without doing some planning. And also for long-term care, you could buy even IUL or a long-term term policy, and because of the payout for 2 of 6 activities living, the critical illness rider or chronic illness rider on the policies, it might pay out a certain amount to them to pay off the long-term care while they could get the money out of the out of their name. But if they have plenty of money, they can use 401k or IRA assets in their old age to pay the long-term care, and then let the life insurance replace that income. So I've sold plenty of times $250,000, which is more than most long-term care policies will pay out before they max out. But I've sold plenty of $250,000 policies on 70-year-old, 65, 70-year-old people that are there just to replace. In other words, they got enough money in the bank or enough money in the IRA to pay up to $200,000 for long-term care. But instead of buying a policy, we just buy a life insurance policy. If they never go to a nursing home, then the life insurance replenishes the amount of money that was spent. And if you use your IRA money, you can use it tax-free, and then the life insurance comes back tax-free to the children. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. Now, we're getting a little too deep in for this, but you ask these questions to find out all those opportunities, and you can get back with me if you run into one. I can help you with it, or Carl can help you with it. Medicare supplement, of course, I asked that question here, but you would really want to ask it here because this is a different sheet than the one I got that I've been using. They got it a little bit different. So this would just be about health insurance for, if they have it through Obamacare or at work. This would be about the supplement or the Advantage plan that I was telling you about for Josh, and or for you if you want to write a supplement. You have to have a special license for the Advantage plan like Josh has. All right, so let's say we've come to the conclusion that they don't have any insurance and they need to buy the life insurance. You go ahead, calculate it out, get an agreement, have them apply, and you've written a policy. Come down to they didn't need anything or a small amount. Just off whatever the amount is, tell them what the premium costs. Don't try to figure out whether you would pay it or not. Just tell them what the premium would cost. And they say, "Oh, I can't afford that." We'll say, "Well, how much can you afford? Can you afford to take $5 a week out of your check?" And most times people say, "Yeah." So that's at least $20. Can you afford to take $200 a week out of your check? And they'll say, "No." Well, it's somewhere between $5 and $200. How much can you take out of your check every week to set aside to pay this premium for your life insurance? And let them answer. So anyway, after you do that, you come to a conclusion. You also say at an application, I like to do is you ask about their health, all right, health problems. That way it kind of help you figure out what rating you're going to be able to give them. But also, since we are required on some applications, on the term and the IUL, to ask about family history, this is a good place to get referrals. So you can say, we need to know about your family history because that determines whether you'll be able to get a preferred or a standard rating. Is your mom still alive or your dad still alive? And you say, Dad is how old is he? Is he healthy? Have any health problems? He still work? And where does he live? And by doing that on dad, mom, sisters, brothers, what you're finding out is if that dad's still alive and he's still healthy, he's working or he's not working, but he's still pretty healthy, and he lives close by, you got a referral. And then you can say to him, let me go do what I just done for you on this review here. Let me go do this for your mom and your dad, your sisters, your brothers. I'm not going to ask them to buy a thing, and I'm not coming to sell them anything. I'm coming to make sure that they are taken care of like you want me to help take care of you by doing this review. So that's the way to get a lot of good referrals right there. But at the same time, you can turn right around and say, what friends, church members, whoever, that you can go and do this review for, and you'll give them $10 Walmart card or $20 Walmart card, whatever fits your budget, per referral. If they'll just let you come in. Of course, you can't do it based on a sale, but you can give them that card based on the referral. In other words, you say, I'll give it to you if they'll let me come and do a review. They don't have to buy anything. And then just do that with everybody, and you should never, ever run out of people to go see. Anyway, that's basically a quick review. I'll try to post this up on my YouTube site that I'm working on now. So anyway, I'm going to conclude here. Call me or Carl. My number is 864-378-2224. If you have any questions about any of this, and I might be able to do another one later a little bit cleaner. So anyway, give me a call back on any questions you may have, 864-378-2224, or call Carl. Bye-bye.